Chris, I guess first off, Josh Franco set to leave West Lakes. Is he someone you'd consider getting here, given you've lost a few assistant coaches?
Yeah, look, I only caught up on that news late last night. I've known Josh for a long time. We're looking for a couple of spots. We'll look around Australia for people to fill those, and the people who are available we'll obviously talk to. But it was interesting to see Josh leaving after a short period of time.
How wide do you cast that net? Obviously it's easy to sort of point out all the former Port Adelaide people around the league and just point at them and say they might come, but how do you go about finding the next assistant coach?
Yeah, well, obviously the Coaches Association have got a list of people who are looking for roles. Obviously, you do your due diligence around the place to look at the next group of coaches who are coaching at either development level or state league level. We've got a list that we'll work through over the next period of time, but confident that we'll get some people in who can do a job and look to take us forward into the future.
Is Muddy Madness someone you might consider given his successful start?
Yeah, look, I'm mindful now of the individual names being brought up. I think we'll look across the board and if there are people who we think are going to be good for our organisation, then we'll obviously bring them in.
What about Jared Pollock? There's a lot of speculation about him. Has he informed the club as to his intentions?
So we've had our exit meeting with Jared. And I think we've been really clear on the fact that he's got offers from other clubs. I think the longer that this goes, the more likely he is to be leaving the club. But he's also been absolutely categoric in saying that he loves the club. He wants to stay, but I think the reality is going to be that the offer elsewhere is going to be too big for him to pass up at this point.
So you won't match North Melbourne? It's been reported North Melbourne. You won't match that offer?
We've put an offer to Jared previously that he knows exactly what it is, and he's got to make some decisions over the next period of time now.
You might not be able to budge money-wise. Can you budge year-wise with something like that?
Well, all of these things you negotiate on time and money, don't you? I mean, the club's got the opportunity to do whatever it wants in this situation. We've been really clear. Jared's got a decision to make now, and I'm sure that he'll make that over the next period of time.
Is there a certain time frame you want an answer by? Like obviously, so you get started.
No, I mean there's no real need to know anything other than when the trade period starts. The speculation has clearly started, and there'll be a period of time where I'm sure that you guys will have a field day as to who is coming and going around the AFL, but these things can't get done until the trade period starts, and that's for another month, isn't it?
What about Chad Wingard? Is he a required player here, or would you consider trading him?
Would we consider? I heard his manager last night. Be really clear on that. From our perspective, we're planning for Chad to be here. He's contracted for another year. It's interesting the cycle of the AFL now. When players become free agents down the track, there's obviously a fair bit of speculation about them the year before. We've gone through that before, so I don't think there's anything new.
Can I just ask again on Polly with the whole meeting in the middle with contracts and whatnot? Is that a matter of the club can't offer what he wants, or the club doesn't want to offer anyone, let like Jared Pollock or anyone else, an offer way bigger than what they think?
Yeah, well, I mean, the club's got a responsibility to manage its list and its TPP in an appropriate fashion. That doesn't mean that we can't do different things to pull levers, whether it's Jared or whether it's another player down the track. It's whether the club wants to, and it's whether the player ultimately wants to accept that offer, isn't it? I mean, we can talk about the different levers that we've got to pull, but ultimately the decision needs to be made once you've put your offer forward. Other clubs will put their offer forward, and Polly's got a decision to make.
How frustrating is that for you, given he has, as you said, I really like
no,
being here?
Do you know what? It's not frustrating at all because that's the cycle of the competition. The reality is we've brought players into our club previously through the same mechanism that Jared might go. And so it's just the reality of the situation that we deal with. So there's no point for frustration with Jared or with anyone asking the question. It's just the reality of the situation that we deal with.
And has his money in the cap been tightened or squeezed by the other recruits coming in, not lots? Rocky, those guys?
No. I mean, our TPP has been managed really well over a period of time. You make decisions based on value, based on what you can get back in any particular scenario, trade scenario. They're all the things that we throw into the melting pot of our decision making. Whether it be Jared, whether it be other players who are out of contract, they're the situations that you go through.
Given he's not a free agent though, like, do you then work to get the best deal possible for the club and sort of play a bit of hardball with whoever is?
Yeah, well, I mean that's not a specific conversation with regard to Polly. That's just an overall discussion, isn't it? If one of our players decides to go, as you've seen around the competition, some players come to their club and say, look, it's time for me to go, whether they're out of contract or they're in contract. It's then the club's responsibility to get the best possible deal for the club. So that, again, it's not something new. It's just the situation that we'll find ourselves in over the next period of time. If that's a situation with Jared, if it's a situation with any other players on our list, that's exactly the situation. We'll have to get the best deal for the club.
David Koch has said the club needs to be more ruthless. How do you do that? What is that?
Oh, look, when you are plus or minus 2 wins over a 4-year period, the reality is that the situation has to change. We've got decisions to make over the next period of time to put in place a program for 2019 that will allow us to be better than what we are at the moment. Our people deserve that. Our people deserve better than what we've delivered. We have higher expectations than what we've delivered. So we've got to make some decisions to take this club forward right now, because sitting 10th is not what Port Adelaide does. That doesn't make the people who have been part of it so far bad people. It's just clearly not what Port Adelaide stands for. So we have to make sure that we're making decisions into the future with that in mind, because this club is more than 10th.
And just on Wingard, obviously, required player, definitely wanting to stay long term.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's been no discussions otherwise.
How did you judge Chad's form this year, Chris? What's sort of, I suppose, in the exit review meeting with Chad, like his overall performance in 2018?
Yeah, I mean, Chad's good. He's outstanding, isn't it? He's a fantastic player, and we're going through that not just with Chad right now, but our whole group in saying how can we be better at different moments during the season. And I'm really mindful of this becoming about Chad. This is not about Chad specifically. This is about our whole group in saying, in the big moments, we weren't able to step up. We thought we positioned ourselves well at 11-4, but when you lose 6 of your last 7, clearly there's something wrong. And maybe that 11-4, there was wallpapering over cracks. But the job now is to look at what happened, why it happened. We can sit here and make ourselves feel better about losing close games and say, geez, the season could have been different, but the reality is it wasn't. We've got to look at why those things happen and get really clear on the changes that we need to make to make sure that we're delivering a program that's better than 10th in 2019.
What about Scott Lycett? Is he another player that you?
Yeah, look, I think right now it's not good for me to get into specific names. We're going to look to improve our list, and that's an overall philosophy that every club will take throughout the trade period.
I was going to ask about McGovern too. Probably not a good idea.
Yeah, no specifics. Good on you, Tommy.
Taking names out of it, then types of players that Port Adelaide might need to pursue in the off-season, is that when we go yet?
Look, I think it would be fair to suggest that we've got areas that we need to improve. We've also got areas where we've got some pretty significant depth. So that will become a trade-off over the next period of time in saying, well, what do we need? What type of game style will Ken and the coaches want to actually play in 2019, and we'll stock our list accordingly.
So that can't be specified yet. You can't say we need another fullback, we need another ruckman.
I think everyone would love another a goal kicker. Everyone would love another outside mid. The reality is it's about balance on your list, and the coaches are going to have to go through a period now of saying, well, what do we want our game to look like next year, and and we'll think about the draft and trade period accordingly.
Lee obviously asked about Wingard and how you assess his season. How do you assess the new guys that came in, Rocky, Watson, Motlop, or do you need to see over a larger body?
I think we need to see over a larger body, and I'm mindful also that we're all in this together. So those guys came in. They showed glimpses of why we brought them in. Would we have liked more consistency? Absolutely, but that's across the group. Again, things broke at the end of the year, and it wasn't just down to 2 or 3 players. It was down to the group as a whole. So we'll have to look at all of that and make sure that next year our players are better prepared to stick at it for longer.
You had a couple of delistings yesterday. You have to make a few more. When do those boys find out, or do you have to sit on those for a little bit and wait to see how?
Yeah, so that's exactly what we'll do. I don't think right now that we'll announce any more delistings before the trade period. So both Jimmy and Emmanuel have been really good guys to have around the club. You guys know them, really bubbly characters. So we'll be sad to see them go, but it's the reality of the situation. The guys, we've got a group who are out of contract who will now take through to the trade period and make some assessments on our list once the trade period and free agency period is ended.
Is Joe Atley a player who has requested a trade interview or suggested he wants to go somewhere with more opportunities?
No, but Joe's out of contract, so they're the things that we'll go through over the next period of time now.
You talked about you had areas of depth, that you can possibly, I suppose, use to trade to help areas that you might need some replenishment in. And you obviously got a lot of inside mids, and Joe's one of those players who plays inside. Is that an opportunity you could?
Look, I don't think it's appropriate right now that we talk about who is going to be coming and going, other than to say that we want to improve, and if we've got depth in areas, and we've clearly got to look at it. I just want to be really clear. We finished 10th. We have to get better. We're not shying away from change. There's already been changing from a coaching perspective. We expected better. Our people deserve better.
How do you change a game plan, like the changes that you need to make? Maybe not the whole game plan, but how do you change a game plan in an off-season when it's been drilled in for the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, teams have done it clearly because you've seen significant increases in performance over time. It's about being really clear on what you want to achieve, and then the coaches instructing the players accordingly. It can be done, but it needs the required work. And I'm sure that the coaches will put that into the players over the pre-season once the boys come back.
It doesn't matter getting new life in from assistant coaches or some...
Yeah, well, that's the reality of our situation. We're going to have a few new coaches coming in. I'm sure that there'll be new players with different skill sets that are coming in. So it'll be really important for us to harness those skill sets of whether it be coaches and players and take things forward from there.
What have you made of the criticism of Ken?
Which specific?
Well, is it just an easy thing to do to say, good list, not performing is the coach's fault?
Yeah, I think it's natural, isn't it, for people who are in prominent positions to be judged, whether it be me, whether it be Ken, whether it be our players. I mean, that's what we sign up for. This is a high performance industry. We're not hiding from the fact that we expected better. So when you don't perform, that's natural.
Just on another issue, apart from Tom Rockcliffe, is there any other players who've gone in for off-season surgery?
Yeah, Watsy had some ankle surgery earlier this week. Unfortunately, he hurt himself in actually round 1, so he carried something through the whole year and has had some just minor ankle surgery. Rocky's obviously having his shoulder done. I think Riley Bonner will have some minor foot surgery. But Rocky's the only one who we think will be impacted at the start of pre-season.
And obviously Charlie as well, Charlie Dixon.
Yeah, so Charlie's had that, but he should be up and about by pre-season.
So Jack carried that ankle the entire season?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Do you think that's sort of, given all the criticism of his performance this year?
Again, you're not going to have too many players who are feeling fantastic, either at round 1 or round 23. So the guys have got to carry these types of things. Jack was able to to get through the season. He's had his surgery now. We look forward to him having a good pre-season and helping us next year to get better.
So left or right?
That's a very good question. One of those. Yeah, I'm not really sure, mate.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm trying to think though. I saw him yesterday. It was a big red foot. I think it was his left, but don't quote me on that. It might have been his right.
I just asked one of the rules committee had on. What's the status there, and do you get anything soon? Or?
Yeah, we've got a meeting, I think, in September at some point. The reality is I haven't heard any more about some of the things that the AFL are looking at. I'm sure that when the time is appropriate, they'll flick out some pre-reading before that meeting. But right now, I don't have any more or less information than you guys do about what the next steps are with regard to rules for 2019.
Does it have to be before the draft period, so you know if it changes the style of the game, what players you need?
Yeah, I think Steve, has been clear that he wants to make sure that decisions are made before October, so that clubs can actually get into the mode of thinking about how different rule changes may affect teams, and you can start to recruit accordingly. So I expect that any changes would be made in that period of time.
Thanks, CD.
Thanks.